So why is it that really intelligent, capable people get such wildly different results from AI? You know what I'm talking about. One person gets this incredibly precise, useful output, and someone else, using the exact same tool, gets something that, well, it sounds smart, but it's completely useless. We're going to dive into that, because the answer isn't about finding some magic prompt. It's about seeing a hidden system that's at play every single time you interact with an AI. Here's the core idea for today, the signal we're going to trace. An AI failure almost never comes from a lack of processing power. It comes from the ambiguity that we, the users, feed into it. You have to understand the quality of an AI's output is just a direct reflection of the clarity of your own thinking. The machine is a mirror. Now, this isn't some niche problem for one type of user or one kind of task. Not at all. This is a pattern that echoes across pretty much every high-stakes professional field where people are trying to use AI to get an edge. Just think about all these different areas. You've got a product manager trying to nail down a new feature, a lawyer analyzing these dense legal clauses, a developer writing a crucial system prompt. In every single one of these cases, the same fundamental problem shows up again and again. Unclear intent going in just leads to generic, totally unhelpful output coming out. This proves it's not about being clever with your wording. It's a systemic challenge of turning a clear thought into a structured instruction. Okay, so how does this mirror effect actually work? Let's go behind the glass for a minute and look at the system's mechanics. There are really three key things that explain why ambiguity is so damaging to AI performance. First up is what we call cognitive clarity. See, a prompt isn't just a command you give. It's like a physical snapshot of your own internal reasoning at that moment. So if your goals, your constraints, the very definition of what a good result looks like, if that's all fuzzy in your head, then those signals are just going to be missing from the prompt. The model can't read your mind, so it's forced to guess. And it does that by defaulting to the most common, generic, high-probability answer it's ever seen. Second, there's the error surface. Now, a missing constraint isn't just a blank space. For the model, every single piece of information you don't specify, the audience, the format, what not to include, it mathematically blows open the field of possible answers it can pull from. So if you ask for a slogan but don't say the audience is retirees, the AI suddenly has to consider slogans for teenagers and new parents too. This just increases randomness and drift, and it's why the output can feel so plausible but just completely miss the mark. And the third one, and honestly, this one's the most subtle, is epistemic failure. This is when the model gives you a brilliant, fluent, perfectly structured answer to the wrong question. It's like asking a master carpenter to build the world's greatest ladder when what you actually needed was a bridge. The ladder itself is flawless, but it's totally useless for your real goal. The failure wasn't in the AI's answer. It was in the premise of the question you asked. And once you understand the system, you start to see the two very different paths people take when they get a bad result. Most people, as you can see here, focus on the phrasing. They get a weak output, and they start tweaking words, changing a sentence. These are just cosmetic improvements. The expert, though, focuses on the framing. They don't just fiddle with the words. They go back and rethink the core goals and the constraints. They iterate on their intent, because that's the only way to fix that core misalignment. So what really happens when we get this wrong? What's the real-world cost of these cracks in the reflection? Believe me, it's a lot more than just a few wasted queries. The consequences are very real. It's professionals burning hours trying to polish a generic output into something it can never be. It's developers chasing phantom bugs in the model when the real error was in the prompt all along. It's creators just drowning in revision cycles, and analysts who trust a synthesis that sounds confident but is actually paper thin. And ultimately, it leads to really smart users blaming the tool instead of the way they're interacting with it. And this really gets to the heart of it. A bad output isn't some random glitch. It's the logical, predictable result of a process built on accumulated instructional misalignment. Every little piece of ambiguity, every unstated assumption, it just builds up until the final result can't help but be useless. So if that's the problem, what's the solution? What's the edge that expert users have? Well, it's not a secret list of prompts. It's a completely different mental model for how they even approach the task. They focus on shaping the reflection before they ever look in the mirror. This is kind of what their internal workflow looks like. First, before they type a single word, they define their success criteria. They ask, how will I know this is good before I even start? Then, they consciously decide whether to tighten constraints for a precise, surgical answer or loosen them up for brainstorming and exploration. And this is crucial. They never, ever treat the first output as the final answer. It's just a draft, an input for their next, more refined question. And finally, they design a verification step. How are they going to prove this output is correct, using something outside of the AI itself? So this whole system, from the initial signal to the expert's edge, it really all boils down to self-examination. It's about looking within before you start typing. So we're going to end with the only tools that really truly matter for getting better results. Before you write your next prompt, I want you to just stop and ask yourself this. Honestly, how clear is my thinking right now about what I want? Next, actively hunt for the gaps. What are the constraints, the exclusions, the context that you've left out because it's completely obvious to you, but totally invisible to the machine? And finally, the most powerful question of all. Look past the words you typed and ask yourself, what am I really asking? What is the fundamental task I am trying to accomplish here? The answer to that is where you'll find your signal.